It is now time to review New Japan Pro Wrestling's biggest show of the year, and the year just started, Wrestle Kingdom 19, of course, on January 4th, 2025. I don't know why I hesitated. It's always the same thing, January 4th every year, and this year being 2025, of course, from the Tokyo Dome over there in a little hamlet known as Tokyo in Japan. I don't know if I'm going to shock anyone here with this review. I don't think this might be the most predictable review that I could do. I thought that overall this was a good show. I definitely don't think it was a great show, and I think that's kind of the consensus. So that's why I'm saying nothing shocking here, right? However, this is the show that I feel was to be expected, considering the status of the overall roster in New Japan and how they are building the future of the company right now. We're going to get to that when we talk about the main event, but I think this is the best possible outcome in an environment where, your top guys from the former era are all either washed or just gone, and you are in this spot where all you have is a bunch of new guys, untested guys, new guys / untested guys having to step up into the big spots. So you don't have the luxury of, 10 years of Tetsuya Naito or Kazuchika Okada or Hiroshi Tanahashi at the top of the card to buoy a lot of things that you want to be trying out. Now you are forced to put guys that you've never tried at the top. And this has been my talking point for every moment I got to speak on Wrestle Kingdom moving in. It's because of course there's been a controversy around the selection of Shota Umino in the main event. And a lot of people weren't into that and didn't think it was a good idea. But again, as I've posited multiple times, if not Shota, who? Who would you have put in the top spot in the main event against Zack Sabre Jr. as a drawing match, as a match that could deliver? Who would have been the guy? Now, we have the benefit of hindsight now. We'll be able to expand on that a little bit. But my entire point here is that this was a laboratory. It was a workshop environment in which we were waiting in to see what New Japan is trying to do and with whom, and how these people being put in these spots would be able to deliver. I think there are people who absolutely delivered. There are people who did not. And there are people who probably surprised me. They did surprise me as much in regards to their performance and how they delivered. I'm not going to talk too much in riddles. We're going to ease our way into the review. Just as a note before we start off, the attendance reported for New Japan's Wrestle Kingdom 19 is at 24,107 people, which of course is good, but a significant drop down from last year from Wrestle Kingdom 18, which was at 24,422, a number that had been slowly on the rise. Wrestle Kingdom 17 was at 26,000, something like that. It was on the low end of 26,000, if memory serves me right. So last year, back up a little higher, going up to 27,000. Now this year, we've noted a drop. And a noticeable drop on top of that. We're not talking about a couple of hundred people. We're talking about 3,000 people. So again, sort of to go to my point, this should not surprise anyone because there weren't any like outright drawing matches. Now we could argue that Naito and Hiromu was put on the card to serve as a quote unquote drawing match because it's a match people have been wanting to see for a long time, that that is put together by two of the promotion's fan favorites, like two wrestlers that the fans really do enjoy. And this was put together, obviously, added to the card, obviously, to try and compensate for the main event, which, no one can say with a straight face that Zack Sabre Jr. versus Shota Umino is a drawing match. No one can say that, like, in good faith. That's just how it goes. So that was probably balanced out. So you could still wonder, how many more tickets did that push? Was there a significant change in the, was there a significant change? Basically what I'm trying to say is, if Hiromu and Naito wasn't on this card, how much lower would the attendance have been? Well, I can't answer that question. I don't have that level of granular detail. I probably have some resources that I'll be able to reach out to in a couple of days and see what what kind of stuff they have. But in the meantime, I mean, this is, it's fine. Don't get me wrong. It's fine. It's a good number. No one can be like outright disappointed. I think, under 20K, this would have probably been measured as a disaster. 24,000, it's fine. Sure, it's a significant drop, but we've got another year to build people up. Let's re-roll this tape. Let's re-roll this tape in 2026. But might as well start off with the main event, right? I think we'll go with the main event, where Zack Sabre Jr. successfully retained the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship against Shota Umino. I don't think there is much of a surprise in this situation. A match that lasted 43 minutes and 44 seconds. Which I don't think this is going to be a hot take. I think the consensus is that it was too long. And I think it was too long, especially considering what they wanted to do. Now, let's say we transport ourselves back a few years, pre-pandemic, let's say 2017, or even before that, 2016, 17, 18. And you've got guys like Kazuchika Okada and Kenny Omega, and even before that, we can go to Shinsuke Nakamura, we can go to Hiroshi Tanahashi. God, that was hard to get out for some reason. And these guys are having like 30 plus minute main events, but you're like these are some of the greatest wrestlers ever. They've been built. The people are into the hype, and they're main event guys. Like, these are tippy top guys, confirmed, that we've seen develop, that we have got behind. We know how good these guys are. So if they settle in for a 30, 35, 40 minute main event, well, you're like, okay, now we've got stuff we got some bones to chew on. This will be interesting. This is going to be good. Overall, this has the potential to be really, really, really great. Now you're coming into an environment where you have Zack Sabre Jr., who is a terrific pro wrestler, and I don't think anyone, I don't think anyone is arguing that, but his standing as a world champion, it still has to come together. Like, we've seen a few defenses, but, as a top guy, I think there's still some building that has to be done, and Shota Umino, who is completely unproven in this type of spot. Zack Sabre, it's not as if Zack Sabre Jr. is a guy who is used to the main event in the Tokyo Dome, but is nonetheless a guy that maybe you have a little more faith in to pull out like a great worthy performance, versus another guy, like I said, who is absolutely unproven in this type of environment. So if you want to go the 40 plus minute route on a match like this with a guy who is unproven and a guy who is still finding his world championship legs, I think it's a ballsy decision, and it's not necessarily a good one. Now, I know they're sticking with tradition to a degree where it's like, well, look, The Wrestle Kingdom main event typically is this elongated, epic thing, right? But not everyone can do the epic match. You get Kazuchika Okada in there, you get Will Ospreay in there, you get Kenny Omega, you get Tanahashi. That's a whole, even Naito, Prime Naito, that's a whole other ball of wax. But in this situation here, I would have picked, Concision over, an expansive epic poem. This long yarn that they were trying to spin here, because I don't think it lived up to it, and I think that it was ultimately a detriment to the enjoyment of the match. Where you're like, at some point, I was like, let's go, fellas. Let's start bringing this home, because, man, this is doing Shota Umino more harm than good. So we'll transition into that topic then. Shota Umino. Again, every opportunity I had to speak about Wrestle Kingdom on the podcast, on live stream, and talk about the main event specifically, I wanted to hammer home one point. I wanted to hammer home one thing that, I felt was important to underscore here. And I wanted to underscore it specifically towards people who felt like Shota Umino was not the guy, and that were really upset about him not being the guy. And I understand, don't get me wrong. I'm not here to argue whether you think he was a worthy candidate or not. That's not the point. The point I always maintained was, if not him, who, right? And then they decided to go with Shota. So why would they decide to go with Shota if not to be in a sink or swim type of situation, right? I think this is something that they absolutely wanted to do with him. Toss him into the deep end and see what happens. They earmarked this kid from the moment he returned from excursion as the ace, as the top guy. The Reiwa 3, him calling himself the ace of the company, and so on and so forth. All of this stuff was meant, the big entrance, the whole nine. Like, Shota has, you can feel the company is behind him, right? Like, it's just he's one of these guys where you just feel the machine is working for him. And this was a moment where they just wanted to put their money where their mouth is and say, okay, well, we need the new guys to step up. And fans want the new guys to step up. So let's throw him in there. Like I said, it's a sink or swim situation. Either he makes it or he doesn't. I don't think he necessarily swam. Well, he wasn't out there, he wasn't like a Michael Phelps out there, but he definitely didn't drown. But he paddled his way through it. Okay. I don't even think that this is his worst match. I think his work was solid. Just like I thought Zach's work was absolutely tremendous. And we'll get to Zach in a second. But Shota in this match, I thought worked hard. I think on a technical basis, there's not much you can reproach. A couple of sloppy little spots at some point. I think he should do the spinning neck breaker thing, the ignition that he calls it, right? I think he should take that out of his arsenal. He's not able to land it properly, and especially tonight, it didn't look good. It looked really goofy. It's the things that make the difference between a good pro wrestler and a great pro wrestler that he hasn't nailed yet. He hasn't bolted that down yet. He's still a guy going around doing the pro wrestling thing and doing it. He's good. He does it well. Don't get me wrong here. But the in-betweens, the getting the crowd invested into what he's doing, like creating an actual crowd connection that is not just like fabricated and forced. That's the word I'm looking for. Forced because he comes in through the audience and he slaps hands and he kisses babies and, all that, and he gives his bracelets. That's what's missing from Shota Umino. That is the stuff that he hasn't locked down yet. And in this match, there were multiple occasions, multiple spots where Zack Sabre Jr. was giving him the opportunity to just go in and milk the crowd for a reaction. Zack is locking him up, into submissions, and he's just there. He's just there. There's only one moment that this happened, that Shota was able to create like a connection with the crowd, and that's with the elongated, like there was this long what was it? It was like an ankle lock, right? Yeah, he had locked him into an ankle lock, a knee bar, whatever Zack was doing. He's fiddling around with his legs essentially, right? Because this story of the match was Zack working the ankle. So it's probably so, and Shota was in pain, and he was struggling to get to the ropes, and Zack was, wrenching back and, noodling around like he usually does. And Shota was screaming, was, begging to get to the ropes, and he was crawling. And that was a nice long period that got the crowd invested, as a babyface should do, right? That's what, essentially that's what he should be doing here. But there were other occasions in the match where Zack is doing this and Shota's he's not capitalizing on it. And that's the stuff that he's missing, at least to create a crowd connection. And this is why I feel the crowd has been turning on him for the past few weeks, and it's not necessarily months at this point. It's not necessarily a question of him, of the audience feeling the machine pushing him, just like I said, and them rejecting Shota on that part, not unlike, Vince era Roman Reigns, right? Not unlike that, but I mostly feel that it's him, that it's the audience just not feeling, a fiery babyface connection. I think that there's a lot of that they feel that it's maybe a little contrived, a little forced, and maybe a heel turn would do him wonders. Maybe this is exactly what he needs to do. I think the crowd took a lot of pleasure in moments where he was acting heelish to, just outright boo. I think they took a lot of pleasure in that. And I think that sort of fed him as well. It gave him a little food to move forward as well. I mean, New Year's Dash is coming up, right? On the 6th. So basically, I'm recording the Wrestle Kingdom review here on the Saturday. So in 2 days, we're going to have the New Year's Dash, which, is generally perceived as as not a reset, but like a season premiere. It's not necessarily a reset, but a season premiere. You set up a bunch of new things, new feuds for the new year, so on and so forth. Like, out with the previous season, Wrestle Kingdom's done, and into the new one. And, why not start it off with a shocking heel turn by Shota Umino, turning his back on, on being a fan favorite. I think that would do tremendous work for him and maybe would help him create that connection. We'd say this jokingly, but I'm starting to believe that this might be the right course. Send him back off on excursion, get him out, send him to England, send him to CMLL, just get him out there, or send him back to the US where he loves to spend his time. He loves being in the United States. Yeah, you can tell. Like, he loves being in the US. Send him off there and have him return to New Japan with something new, something fresh, a new outlook, a new character, a new vision, a new persona, whatever you want to call it. not unlike Tetsuya Naito, because the parallels are, they're almost the parallels are like super close at this point. So might as well just, it's not, might as well see if lightning will hit twice if you do the same scenario, or just try it homegrown. Just say, well, look, we're gonna make you a heel. I'm gonna make you a heel. The point is, ultimately, is that they tried it out. They put one of the new guys in a top spot, and he didn't deliver on a main event level. He's not ready. He's not there yet. There's a lot of stuff that still needs to be put together. Well, you've got another year to do it. And the worst thing I believe New Japan could do is stay the course. I think that's the worst possible thing they could do for the career of Shota Umino at this point. They need to try something out, and he's still young. It's still a very fresh career, so we're not like, I think it's absolutely okay to still be out there trying stuff out. Whatever it is they're doing with him right now is not working, and a change of scenery will do him a tremendous amount of good. Now, on the flip side, if we go to Zack Sabre Jr., I was just saying a few moments ago how, this is a guy who still needs to find his footing as a world champion, right? And we get to this main event, and to me, he proved that he's got this main event spot footing, because he dragged everything he could out of Shota Umino to give Shota Umino the spots to be who he is, and then some. And then on top of that, wrestled an impeccable match. It's rare that I'm going to be so black and white on a situation like this in regards to a wrestling match, but Zack did everything he could. Zack danced up a storm. How about this? Zack danced up a storm, but his partner couldn't follow, right? It's like, you have Fred Astaire dancing with Jack Black. Jack Black, he can do some of the, he moves. He's got some moves, but he's not Fred Astaire, who's, like a fucking magician as far as dancing goes. So that's really the best comparison that I can give here. And to properly express how I saw this match go down, where Zack was Zack, and in the top spot, he was ready to deliver, and he understood the structure, and he understood what you need to do to get the crowd invested in this. And it's not as if Zack was alone in his corner doing his little spots. No, he was opening doors wide open, and the other guy wasn't walking through them. So what are you supposed to do at this point? So if anything, there's going to be a lot of people who are going to poo-poo on Shota Umino and say he's not ready, and to a degree, I agree. But I think lost in this sauce is going to be the discussion around Zack Sabre Jr. and how much of a main event top guy he is, because he's able to wrestle at that level. Had he been with one of the, let's say we have the benefit of a time machine and we're able to transpose into this main event, one of the former era's guys, like from 2015, 2016, or a guy like Kenny Omega, like bring in, let's say we had that benefit. We would have had a completely different match, and it probably would be registering as one of the best matches of the year, like a shoe-in for a match of the year candidate. This one, it's not even close. It's not even close. So I didn't hate the match. I thought it was actually quite good, but on a technical sense. And then when it comes to trying to get me to feel things, it kind of failed. There's these spots, there's these moments, just like I think the key moment is the ankle lock struggle, right? Where I'm like, finally, we've got something baking in the oven here. Look at it's starting to rise. We've got it. From this point on, next gear. Let's go. And Shota's into it, and the crowd is into it, and they're invested in it, but it doesn't rise any more than that. And that's a shame. So ultimately, if we want to put a star rating on it, I would give this 3 3/4 stars. But I think look, 3 3/4 stars, and the TLDR of my little review is too long, considering that these guys were essentially in test mode. Zack Sabre Jr. wrestled a match like a world champion. Shota Umino could not deliver. I think he couldn't keep up. Technically, a sound match by Umino. Technically sound, but no emotion, no feeling, no spark, no energy. Kept the crowd from being invested, kept me from being invested, which is most important. I need to be invested. I don't care about the audience. I care about myself. I think we should go to the top of the card then, and then work our way back up. Is that all right? Does that make sense? Is that good? We should do that? Okay. The Rainbow happened. Not the Rambo, not the Rainbow. The Rainbow happened on the pre-show. Again, as everyone knows by now, I believe, not to determine the 4 contenders to challenge for the KOPW title at New Year's Dash. No, we're back. We've abandoned that. That's been retired. The King of Pro Wrestling title has been retired, which, overall, my quick thoughts that I think it's a good thing. Less titles is a good thing. And the winner here would get a number 1 shot at the IWGP World Heavyweight title, and it's Hiroki Goto who defeated the crew to get that shot on an upcoming date. He's not getting the next shot, because the next shot, of course, is going to be Ricochet at Wrestle Dynasty. But Goto, look, it kind of connects with what I was saying earlier. Like, who's ready for these top spots? Who else? If not Shota Umino, who else, right? Well, there we go. We're not going with one of the Reiwa 3 here. We're going with proven commodity, safe choice, and great worker, Hiroki Goto, who is not going to win a world championship. I think that's preordained at this point, but a guy that the audience loves, and a guy who understands the mandates of when he gets put into these situations, and that's going to deliver, and that's going to be potentially a much better match than what we got at Wrestle Kingdom. Like, very much so. But you see, like, this is it. Like, we can't fall back on Tanahashi. Tanahashi's washed. We can't fall back on Naito. No, we can't. We need to fall back on, the new guys. Well, yeah, but look, this is what we're doing. Like, one of the new guys got belted up with the second biggest prize in the company. So now, who else? Do we go immediately to Shingo? Good old stalwart Shingo, always there for, a good challenger of the month situation. Maybe we're going to save that for a little later, because that's coming too. No, we decide to go with Goto. And I look, I'm not complaining. I'm just saying, like, this is the environment in which New Japan is right now. Many of us had been pointing out the minute they brought the Reiwa 3 in, it's like, push these guys, make something out of them, let's go. Because your two top stars, Tanahashi, 2 of your top stars, I should say, Tanahashi and Naito, are on the decline. The next thing you know, Ospreay, Okada, they're gone, signing with AEW, they're no longer there, which it seems to have caught a few people by surprise in New Japan. So now they're stuck, having to build new guys without the benefit of having the old guys to put them over or carry them through some bigger matches and whatnot. Anyway, this is the situation we're in. So that's why we're, falling back onto, the comfortable pair of slippers that is Hiroki Goto. But it's a good pair of slippers though. You know, wear and tear, it's resistant to wear and tear, waterproof. You know, you've spilled coffee on it that doesn't even stain, you know, those kind of slippers. These are a good fucking set of slippers. Don't get me wrong. They'll never let you down, but they'll never be a dress shoe. That's the point. They're slippers. They'll never be a dress shoe. Anyway, yeah, look, it's a Rambo. It's a battle royal. I don't rate these things. A couple of surprises though. Josh Barnett was into this. He came into the match, and of course, Josh Barnett. There is no way someone is eliminating him. Right? He's not taking a pin. He's not eating a submission. No one here is worthy of throwing Josh Barnett over the top rope. No. Josh Barnett is going to eliminate Josh Barnett while he has Bolt and Oleg in a submission. It's going to be the power of Josh Barnett's own submission that is going to eliminate Josh Barnett, which I think is hilarious. Yuji Nagata also showed up for this. Satoshi Kojima as well with the MLW World Championship. And Alex Zane, who was actually the last entrant here in the Rambo. The people like Alex Zane. And the people, they like the Hiroki Goto. You see the reaction he got when he came in? Like, the New Japan fans, they love the Hiroki Goto. Sanada was also in this. Crazy when you think about it. Like, I know commentary mentioned it, but I had started writing it down before commentary made a note of it. Sanada, from the main event of Wrestle Kingdom 18 to being on the pre-show 1 year later, Wrestle Kingdom 19, that has got to be one of the biggest falls from graces in the history of pro wrestling. It has to be. It has to be. From main eventing the Tokyo Dome to curtain jerking it on the pre-show. Anyway, the final four for your consideration were Tomohiro Ishii, Great-O-Khan, Hiroki Goto, and Alex Zane. And it is Hiroki Goto who won, as we mentioned. So let's, it's a battle royal. What do you want from me? Next was we had Kosei Fujita and Robbie Eagles defeating the rest of the three other teams to become the new IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champions. And it was the ladder match. And I was watching this. I'm like, what is this, AEW? Like, 4 teams, ladders. I'm like, okay. Look, the match. Here's the thing. The match ended up being kind of what I expected, but also a little wilder and a little sloppier. Like, it had all these weird ingredients together. I'm like, I'm really enjoying this, but also I'm terrified, but also this is not good. I ran such a gamut of emotions, but ultimately, like, I'm gonna sit down here and I'm gonna give this 3.5 stars out of 5. Christ, Warren, it's not that hard to say words. 3.5. It's it's ladder stuff, and it is what it is, and it's also it's weird to see this kind of Tony Khan like booking on a New Japan show at the same time, but it is what it is. There was, like I said, there were some sloppy spots. At some point, I think they tried to do a spot where Drilla Maloney does the Drilla Killa, and I think it was on Kushida, right? On a table, right? And they had angled the table against the railing so that it was at an angle, right? Not flat back. But Maloney completely woofs it, It's like, I'm like, okay. And it's not the first, or not the only spot that completely whiffs too, right? There's one where Kevin Knight is on he wants to do a spot off the tippy top of the ladder, right? And he's supposed to splash or whatever, and anyway, he's supposed to do it on Maloney, and he also completely flubs it, and fine. It's just it's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy. I really like the TJP Akira spot where Akira does a seated senton off of TJP's shoulders, who is on the apron, and Akira flies off to the floor through a table. That kind of ruled. But I'm big sold on Francesco Akira and Catch 22 in general. So no big surprise there. But there's just a series of crazy bumps throughout the match, high spots. Crowd is into it. Like it gets the crowd into this stuff. I enjoyed it though. Like ultimately, my assessment is I didn't hate this. This was fun, So and I thought it was well enough. It was well enough done, and there were more than enough spots where I thought these guys were putting themselves into true danger that warrants a proper rating, if you ask me. So yeah, 3.5 for me on that front. Mayu Iwatani successfully retained the IWGP Women's Championship against Azumi. This match ruled. I thought it was great. I thought this match was great. Starts off hot on top of that. Azumi does some springboard dive, off the top rope to the floor, which was tremendous. And they're stiffing each other. They're working real snug. They're dropping each other on their heads, Azumi's doing destroyer and she does a double underhook destroyer on top of that. Like, I'm like, all right, let's go. Just tremendous stuff. They're doing Germans, tombstones by Iwatani. She does the moonsault. Azumi kicks out. Then Mayu does that variant on the dragon suplex. I'm sorry, I don't know what the name is, but I know that's like her finisher or whatever, and that's tremendous. Hell of a sprint. This was a match that lasted 8 minutes and 46 seconds. It will be remembered as the second shortest match of the night. The shortest match will unfortunately be the El Desperado Doki match, which probably probably was planned to go longer. Yes. And I loved it. I thought it was great. I thought a sprint is what this was. Tremendous sprint. Now, I know there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be very upset, and they're going to be like, of course, the women's match, the shortest match on the show, doesn't even go 10 minutes, etc., etc. But this, and in a lot of circumstances, I will agree. But in this circumstance here, unlike other promotions who provide like the short matches for the women, right? Which happens frequently. The matches in those other promotions are structured in a way that the women don't necessarily shine. It's like they wrestle like they're wrestling. They put the match together as if they're about to go 12 minutes, but then the match ends at like 7-8 minutes, and it didn't feel anything special. It didn't feel like it went anywhere. This was a sprint from start to finish. Having Azumi in here, who was the cornerstone of the high-speed division in Stardom for a long time, was probably contributed to that. Used to going, balls to the wall here. And that's exactly what it was. It was a sprint, hard-hitting, fast match. They maximized. They used up their time so perfectly here that it's hard for me to complain. It's hard for me to find a complaint here. To find like an issue with the match. Now, if you want to complain about the fact that, oh, well, it's, they're not putting enough time they're not giving enough time for the women. Okay. But in this match here, I don't know how, I don't even know if more time would have been beneficial. This was so good. This was a tremendous and excellent, great, well put together match. Which brings to my argument sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes I get a little annoyed when we're pulling out time stats and number of matches and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, but how many of these matches are any good? Because you could fill up your cards with all sorts of 5-minute matches with just terrible wrestlers that are doing nothing matches, or either or. Doesn't necessarily have to be both. You can have great wrestlers who do nothing matches, or you could do that. But we don't often talk about quality when it comes to the women's matches. It's as if the bar that needs to be cleared is quantity. We need time. We need time, and we need numbers. We need quantity. More matches, longer matches. But the quality is never then something that we ever get into. So where is this going to rank? Are people going to bitch about this match? Like, if people bitch about this match, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. Like, later on in the evening, you have a men's match that lasts, 4 times the length of this match, and I couldn't wait for it to be over. This one left me wanting more, and that's a good feeling. That's something where I'm like, okay, well, next time these two fight, I'm going to tune in. I'm going to seek it out. Or, in other fringe cases, maybe people who had never seen I'm saying fringe cases, but in other cases where maybe some people have never seen a Mayu match or never saw a Zumi wrestle, maybe they'll be like, hey, I'm going to seek these people out. I'm going to look for their matches now moving forward. Like, yes, it was the shortest match on the entire card. Yes, it was a women's match, but you know what? It's probably the second, maybe third best match of the card. And it was sub 10 minutes. What do you want from me? Like this to me is a much more compelling victory. It's a much more compelling feather in the cap, is what I'm trying to say, for these two women than them having an extended 17-minute match that loses its way maybe at some point. I'm not saying that they can't have it or that they shouldn't have it, but what I'm saying in this circumstance here is that this sprint was tremendous. This is the kind of match that WWE tricks you into believing that they're having with the speed title, right? With those 5-minute everything app matches. This is the kind of match they trick you into believing they're having, but they're not. So I get annoyed. I just get annoyed sometimes. Not all the time, but sometimes. And this type of match reinforces that annoyance, where I'm like, okay, so such and such promotion is having more matches than this other promotion throughout the year, and everyone applauds. Yeah, but how many of them stink? How many of them are you able to point out and say these were great? How many of these matches are you able to remember at the end of the year? We want quantity, we want numbers, but quality is never an equation. Ever an equation. It'll become an equation when Dave Meltzer pulls out his ratings and then maybe lowballs it or whatever the fuck. Then quality will become an issue. But it's never an intrinsic one when it comes to sticking up for women's wrestling, which I am. I still am. But we in the area of defense that we have in regards to women's wrestling, we often fail to promote the quality aspect of the match. We often fail to do that because we just want to see more. But seeing more doesn't necessarily mean that it's good. Doesn't necessarily mean the quality is there. Anyway, this was tremendous. It really was good. I went 4 1/4. Like I said, this can easily be someone's second, third best match of the night. Easily. Next, we had the New Japan World Television Championship match, another 4-way. Again, is this an AEW pay-per-view? Where El Fantasmo defeated Ren Narita, Jeff Cobb, and Ryohei Oiwa to become the new World Television Champion. I mean, this was the right thing to do, right? This was the This was the crowd friendly thing to do. It was the perfect story to tell. ELP coming back from his cancer scare, was able to fight it back, and back in the ring. Like you tap into that. Like, this is natural. This is what you do. I didn't know if they had someone else planned for this, because it was a 3-way for the longest time. Then El Fantasmo returned and they put him in here to make it a 4-way. I don't know if Oiwa was the guy that was earmarked, but clearly I'm convinced the plan was changed, and that's good. I like, you should do more of that last minute plan changing instead of sticking with your plan. I'm not saying always, but there's some moments where you just have to assess and you're like, well, look, the best decision in this circumstance is here. So whoever was supposed to win between Narita, Cobb, and Oiwa, I have a sinking feeling Oiwa was supposed to win. You sit him down and you say, look, El Fantasmo came back. He's got big babyface sympathy right now. The crowd is into him because, they're excited that he's not dying. He's excited he's not dying. We're all excited about not death. And it's the time is right to put a title on him. And you sit down, you tell that to the guy who was supposed to win, and the guy can throw a fit if he wants, but you're the booker. You do what's best for business, and what was best for business here was to give ELP, I believe, his first, I'm not mistaken, right? I think this is his first singles gold in New Japan, right? It is indeed his first singles gold. He's been junior tag champion. He's been heavyweight tag champion. He's even been strong open weight tag champion. So we got it all from top to bottom. Look, I thought this was a good little match. I enjoyed it. Quite a bit. Narita spent most of the match not being a factor, and there was some good 3-way action between Cobb and ELP and Oiwa. Cobb at some point catches ELP off of a springboard into an F5000. And Oiwa does a Dr. Bomb on Jeff Cobb, which is impressive, even though Oiwa is being positioned as a big, strong boy. It's still something. It's still a sight to see. But that's where, Narita pulls the ref out of the ring and does the board gimmick. And thankfully, Jeff Cobb snaps the board over his knee, which was great. And he does a tour of the islands onto Narita, but then ELP breaks up the pin, tosses Cobb out, takes out Oiwa, who's on the ground. I think he does like a tope con hilo, something like that, or a dive. I don't quite remember, but lands the Thunder Kiss 86 on Narita for the win. So look, I thought this was solid fun, a good pace. I liked it a lot. We're going to go with 3.5 stars on this one. I thought it was good. I thought it was a fun time. I enjoyed it. Hiroshi Tanahashi defeated Evil to not retire or lose his hair. I don't know why. Did anyone really doubt it? Did anyone really think that Hiroshi Tanahashi was going to retire suddenly, all of a sudden? No, of course not. Of course not. I hate these matches. I hate lumberjack matches. I knew exactly how this was going to go, and it went exactly as I thought it would, with House of Torture taking out the other lumberjacks all the time and doing all sorts of fucking nonsense. There wasn't much to it. I did like one thing that made me chuckle audibly was when Evil is trying to take a powder, going up the ramp, and then Bolton Oleg, again in this show, a centerpiece, he runs up to grab him, and fireman carries him back to the ring, which I thought that was pretty cool. Look, you know what made this match is how much the crowd was into this. The crowd was into it. Like, there's matches that the audience will help. The audience will help improve a match just by their reaction, just by how they were into it. And they were really into this match. They were so into this match. They're hot for it. When, Evil does, not Evil, but Tanahashi does the everything is evil thing, and it popped huge for that. Like they also know what's up with this, right? And, there's all sorts of shenanigans with the House of Torture, of course. You've got Dick Togo doing the powder gimmick still and whatnot. And the match ends with Evil doing the everything is evil on Tanahashi, of course. But Tanahashi, just as Evil comes to pin him, rolls him up, cradles him, and gets the surprise 3 count. So, good little crowd pleaser that helped elevate my own enjoyment of it, because I was like, yeah, okay, this, it's silly nonsense. And I think it was well positioned on the card as well. Between the TV title match and then we had the title for title match that was coming after, I think this was a good buffer. 3.25 star for me on this one here. And after the match, the Katsuyori Shibata shows up in an AEW hoodie to chase off House of Torture, who were planning on doing nefarious deeds once again to Hiroshi Tanahashi, and then challenges Hiroshi Tanahashi to a match at Wrestle Dynasty the next day. So everyone's like, oh, all right. But then it was announced that it's going to be a 5-minute grapple match. So, New Japan is still deathly scared to have Shibata wrestle a full match. They're still terrified. They still will not endorse it. They're still, no. He's not doing a full match. His brain was removed from his head. He's not wrestling a full match. Besides, look, it's against, decrepit Tanahashi. It's fine. It'll be fine. I also thought it was interesting, and maybe I'm forgetting something in my, okay, I'm trying to say too many things at once. The commentary was putting over the fact that, this great friendship between the two and so on and so forth. And wasn't Tanahashi really resistant to Shibata coming back to New Japan because of how Shibata had left the company, when the company was starting to nosedive. He's like, okay, I'm out of here. And he comes back when everything's a little more smooth sailing. And Tanahashi, wasn't he resentful or something? And maybe there's something missing in my lore somewhere. Maybe I have a line spot where it's like, no, they reconciled because I know they had matches. They've had matches. But that's the deal, right? It's like you don't necessarily have to like someone to have a match with them. You do something that pulls a little from reality, and then you got yourself something spicy. You know what I mean? Anyway, Konosuke Takeshita defeated Shingo Takagi to become a champ, retaining, of course, his international title over there from All Elite Wrestling, but also picking up the Never Openweight Championship. So I love this match, but not as much as I should have. Does that make sense? Here's a match I give 4.25 stars to, right? 4.25 stars to this match. And I can't help but feel underwhelmed. And because it's Takeshita and Takagi, and they should be having, they should be blowing away everything else. They should be blowing the entire card out of the water. They should be going out there and having a match where the main event guys in the meantime go, well, we're gonna have to try and beat that, kind of thing. And while this match was tremendous, don't get me wrong, I loved the match. I felt like it didn't reach a high. Now, am I expressing an expectation? Or let me say that again. Am I allowing an expectation to taint a match that I otherwise enjoyed? Yes, I am. Because I think, even objectively, I think everyone was expecting something absolutely mind-bogglingly fuckingly great from these two guys, because they're both tremendous wrestlers. They're both great wrestlers. Shingo today is probably still one of the top 10 best wrestlers in the world. I think we'd all agree with that. Takeshita as well. I'd even say Takeshita is one of the top 5 best wrestlers in the world today. So that like there was no reason for this to not like just mesh into this incredible thing. Did I overhype it in my mind? Maybe, but I also think it's realistic. I think it's a realistic expectation to have in regards to these two guys, where your baseline is like match of the night, you know, and it's not match of the night. So I go, like I'm sure they, you know, it was good. That's the thing. It's like I really don't have any qualms with it outside of, you know, me just being a little disappointed. It's a 4.25 match for me, 4.25 star match for me. Like, you know, they're beating the shit out of each other. They're doing lariats. They're doing superplexes. You got Kinesuke doing the bastard driver and holding on to Shingo and transitioning right into a wheelbarrow German. It's like, this shit rules, man. You know, and it's hard hitting. There's the Made in Japan. There's this fucking nasty Last of the Dragon, right? Commentary was trying to cover, saying, "Oh, he didn't lift him up or whatever." You know, they didn't get him all right, correctly positioned on his shoulders. Well, maybe he shouldn't have done the move, because Takeshita landed really hard on the back of his neck. It was tremendous stuff. Glad he was okay. They're trading poison ranas on each other. They're pelting each other with strikes all into the lead up for the end where Takeshita wins with the blazing fire, burning fire, raging fire, thundering fire. I can't remember the name. Sometimes I remember it, sometimes I don't. It's just one that, you know, the spinning suplex thing, spinning brain buster. Is it supposed to be a brain buster? I feel like it's more of a suplex. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Great stuff. Like, it's a great match. Here's the thing. If anything, you have a built-in rematch here. You have something that someone like me will go out of his way to watch once again. And again, my expectations were going to be high. They'll probably be a little higher because I'm like, all right, guys, now we just gotta empty out the tank here. That's what I'm looking for. That's what I want. So Takeshita wins his first New Japan title. They put that over quite a bit. Again, like, I wouldn't be. Look, he being Takeshita, right? He's facing, now I'm recording this before Wrestle Dynasty, so I'm maybe this is all going to be a moot point by the time you listen to this because Wrestle Dynasty will have passed, but he's going to be facing Tomohiro Ishii. I at least want to be on the record with this. There's really two ways. There's of course two ways this can go, and both make sense. Whereas Takeshita holding two belts makes a lot of sense, and he can travel to Japan, he can continue doing the international shtick, and then he can come back to New Japan at the same time and continue to wrestle. You could also belt up Ishii with both titles too. He's not a stranger to the Never title, and he's more than enough on AEW television. You know, AEW fans know exactly who he is. So if he were to come back with the international title, that would be significant. That would be a good thing. And even if he wants to hang around Japan with the international title for a while, that would probably be good for AEW as well, just to have that squirreled away for a little bit and, you know, do some long distance booking kind of thing without necessarily having to factor in plans right now, because I think the creative is a little scattered. So I think like both, you can make an argument for both guys to win tomorrow. I still think Takeshita is going to hang on to it. And at the very least, what might happen, I think the most plausible scenario is that Takeshita works the 6. He works New Year's Dash and then drops the Never title before heading back to the United States. Doesn't it kind of feel like Takeshita is getting a little, you know, VIP treatment from New Japan, that they're like rolling out the red carpet for him? He had a really good G1, you know, both in quality and in, you know, rankings. He had a very good G1. They've invited him back in the meantime, and he was on Wrestle Kingdom, you know, in a prime spot. And he, as they like to say, doesn't even go there. This is, you know, look, this is starting to feel like a soft jump. Of course, the contract situation in the United States is not the same as in Japan, so he still has to wait out whatever time he has left on his contract with AEW before doing any other moves. But we had heard, earlier in 2024 that Takeshita wasn't necessarily happy with how things were going down in AEW, like how he was being handled. Can't say I necessarily blame him either. I think one of the reasons for the international title win was to help appease that. He's been wrestling a lot, he's a good ambassador for AEW, don't get me wrong. But listen, in an environment like I've been talking about, in this review, especially towards the start, in an environment where New Japan is looking for its new guys to step up and really be the ball carriers for this new generation, a guy like Konosuke Takeshita, who has all the tools and who understands the mandate of a big match and who can deliver quality matches every time and on big stages, on big levels. We've seen it multiple times with multiple opponents. I'm New Japan and I'm like, hey, we'll take care of you here. We'll give you a spot. And you bring him in, and I think you have an instant credible challenger. You have an instant credible challenger for whoever's at the top of the card. And no one would blink twice if you decided to belt him up and make him IWGP World Heavyweight Champion. No one would go, what a weird choice. They'd be like, fuck yeah, it's Konosuke Takeshita. So you're opening yourself up to quality matches. You don't have to, you can still build your guys as you want them to, into the finished products that you need. But Takeshita is right there. He's Japanese. Look, I'm not saying it's absolutely 100% going to happen, but I am going to say that it's a distinct possibility, and it sort of feels that way. I'd keep an eye on it. I don't know how much time Takeshita has left on his contract. I don't know. And I haven't checked either. We're talking off the cuff here. So there's no research behind this. But I'm pretty sure New Japan would like to go, yeah, you know what? You wooed Okada and Ospreay away from us. We're gonna woo Takeshita away from you. Then the next match was El Desperado, where he successfully he successfully won the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship. I don't know if he took it really from Doki, who an absolutely gruesome injury, where you saw it on the replay, where he's doing a seated senton off the top rope to the floor, and his left arm, I believe, it sort of lands awkwardly against his weight, and it just bends into a position that arms aren't supposed to bend in, and that's it. He breaks it, and they stop the match about 5 minutes in, and that sucks. That sucks because you could tell they were ready to beat the piss out of each other, and I was really into it. And that's a real crying shame. It's a crying shame because I think we were cheated out of a really good match, and it's a real crying shame because Doki is this is going to be the cap on a really good 2024 for him, like a 2024 that went beyond his expectations, anyone's expectations really, where he finally, gets the junior title and people are excited for it, and he shows up and he delivers. He has great matches. It's such a bad way to cap off that reign. I don't know if Despe was scheduled to win the belt regardless, but this is where we're at right now. It's unfortunate. I hope the injury is not too serious, but man, the way that arm bent, that wasn't great. So hopefully he gets back on his feet quickly. Yota Tsuji defeated David Finlay to become the new IWGP Global Heavyweight Champion. This match ruled. This is my favorite match of the card. I don't know if this is the consensus or not, but for me, this was a 4.5 star match. Okay, so my talking points are this for this match here. David Finlay has been having a sneaky great 2024. I think he had I covered him throughout the G1 again this year. his work is always great. His work is all like his technical work. It is always great. And this persona that they've kind of leaned into, maybe not persona, this style that they've leaned into of him being, absurdly strong for his size or whatever. It works because he works that, the thing is that you don't expect him to be as good, as strong as he is, because he doesn't look that strong, right? But it works for him perfectly. Like, it's been just like spot on, excellent work that he's been, and he was spot on great in this match. Throwing Yota Tsuji around like that, like those are some phenomenal visuals. Those 3 dominators back to back, phenomenal visuals where you're just like, oh, wow. And I think Tsuji delivered on his end as well. I know I feel like in the lead up to this, there are more and more people who are losing faith in Yota Tsuji. And I recently, if I remember correctly, was kind of like, man, I'm not sure about Tsuji. I think, I'm very close, very, very close to not dismissing him, but classifying him as a vibes guy, where he comes in, he has the look, he has the feel, he has the smile, and you're like, oh, look at the superstar. But then when the bell rings, it's like mid, He nonetheless super delivered here. Like, I thought he really super delivered. Even though his offense is very, look, all wrestlers have their patterns, right? They all have their patterns, the routines. Every wrestler has them. But you also expect them sometimes to sort of break from that and do other stuff, which is something David Finlay does, because he has his patterns too, but he breaks from them. He keeps things interesting and fresh and vicious. And I don't feel that from Yota. Yota is, this match sort of restored some faith that had kind of eroded, but I'm not like suddenly screaming at the top of my lungs, this is the guy. Right? I think he still has the potential to be the guy. I still think he's one of the more interesting prospects that New Japan has, if only because of his charisma, because of what he gives off, right? But it's exactly like I was saying, when I define a vibes guy, is that the vibes guy is going to have, in a big match position, he's going to show up. And then for his other matches, well, he's gonna go soft. He's not gonna press as hard down on the gas. He's gonna go a little softer. He's gonna, not tear the house down every night. That's usually how I define a vibes guy. So this was a big match. It was a big spot for him, and it was a big singles win for him. Big singles title, which I believe is his first singles title in New Japan as well, correct as well. So, of course you're going to show up for that. Of course you're going to want to tear the house down for that. You're going to want people to remember the match and talk about it positively and, pat you on the back and whatnot. So let's see the rest. Let's see what the body of work here moving forward is going to be like. Maybe this is the motivator that he needs. Maybe this is the thing that is going to sort of spark things. But at some point, and I wrote it down here in my notes, I was watching David Finlay wrestle and throwing him around and doing the power bombs and buckle bombing them and then I'm like, what if Yota Tsuji worked Dave Finlay's offense? And wouldn't that just be like spectacular? Don't get me wrong, I get it. Like, this guy went to Mexico and he does some spectacular stuff. Some very acrobatic, agile stuff for a guy his size. I get it. That's an attribute as well. I'm not saying that his moveset stinks. Yes, I'm a nerd. I use the term moveset. But when it comes to Dave, but when I look at Dave Finlay's offense and Yota's size and his overall girth and his charisma and what he projects, I feel like he's a guy who projects more, I'm going to do 3 consecutive dominators on you, than here's a Hurricane Rana. That's what Tsuji projects more. So it kind of makes you wonder if he just tweaked his offense to be more power based than making use of his lucha stuff, maybe this would be like the connective tissue that we need between Yota Tsuji the guy and Yota Tsuji the top guy. Maybe this is what's missing here. I'm just spitballing here. No, I thought this was great. I thought this was great. We're kicking out of stuff, and Tsuji blocks the overkill, does a power bomb, and then does the Gene Blast. Gene Blast for the win. Yeah, 4.5 stars for this match. Probably, no, actually, very likely. And actually is in fact my match of the night. And then we had Tetsuya Naito defeating Hiromu Takahashi in the special singles semi-main event match. We talked about the business aspects of it earlier on. So, I mean, this match is 5 years too late. This is and I don't think it's a hot take. I'm pretty sure a lot of people came up to the same conclusion, that this match it has just arrived 5 years too late. Had we got this when it was supposed to happen, I think would have been tons better than this. Now, like, Tetsuya Naito is, he's being held together by tape. And I understand that there's a lot of like I myself, I'm an LIJ guy, and I love Tetsuya Naito, but my love for the group and my love for Tetsuya Naito can't cover the fact that this guy's being held together by he's stitched together. He's about to fall apart. You can physically see it in the match that he can't do it. He's not there anymore. He doesn't have the snap. He's slow. He's a little sloppy. Like he's always had like a level of sloppy, but that good level of sloppy that I often talk about, like when I talk about Mercedes Moné, I'm like, she's sloppy, but it works for her. It's the same thing with Naito. It's sloppy, but it works for him. Here now it's just like to the detriment of everyone, and he's slow. It's as if he's his destinos. They like fucking take. It takes like an ice age for them to warm over, for them to finally connect. As if he doesn't want to whiff them anymore. So instead he just takes his time. And everything's a destino. I don't understand. It's like Walter Stewart, who by the way is tremendous, don't get me wrong, but like we got to have a consensus here. Like the destinos, like everything is a destino, and I'm like, what the fuck? Why is everything a destino? Not everything is a destino. And it's like in the main event when Shota Umino is doing double underhook stuff. Like everything that has a double underhook is suddenly a Death Rider, and I'm like, this is not a Death Rider. Like not everything has to be a Death Rider. Like, cut it out, It's like, not everything is. Not only does it not need to be, but not everything is. Like, there's a move. There's one time in the main event, Shota Umino does I think it's literally like, didn't he do like a butterfly suplex off an avalanche one? And Walker Stewart outright called it, avalanche Death Rider. I'm like, no, he didn't. It's not because it's a DDT. It's a double underhook, like, DDT thing. That's what it is. The Dirty Deeds. It's the Dirty Deeds. That's a good name for a finisher. That will always be a good name for the finisher. Will always be better than Paradigm Shift. The Dirty Deeds. The Dirty Deeds will always have been a good name for a finisher. The Dirty Deeds. Anyway, there were a lot of Dirty Deeds in this match here. And look, Hiromu, I don't know. Hiromu was he covering for him? I don't know. Like there was just nothing here. There was nothing. This is a match where I go 3 stars because I don't know. Do I go lower than that? It wasn't bad. Like it wasn't terrible, and the work was there. The effort was there, and I guess the crowd was into it. And you see, here's the thing. I didn't even think the crowd was all that into it either. Us talking about how big of a match this was. But again, I think because it was 5 years too late, I think the audience were excited at the idea of the match. But then when they saw the match, they were like, wait a second, this kind of stinks. This is kind of not good. I mean, I could be wrong, right? But I think like I think I'm right. Of course, I should think I'm right. But I think I'm right because it's overall an issue that a lot of fans in pro wrestling have, where there's the idea of a match will superimpose, what the reality is going to be. And this is based off of nostalgia. This is based off of, pure fandom favorites and so on and so forth. But when you take it apart logically, you're like, well, this maybe wasn't exactly the best call, It's like, when you start doing throwback matches for wrestlers who are past their prime, and I'm not saying any guy, I'm just throwing this out there. I'm not saying Naito and Hiromu are past their prime. Well, I think Naito's past his prime. I think that's pretty clear, but I'm not applying this specifically to this match. This reasoning here is, the example I want to give here is you have two wrestlers who are past their prime who come together for a match. Fans get excited. They buy tickets. They tune in. And the match is sort of like, And in the past, if they have had better matches, so wouldn't we have just been better off going back to watch the old match? But then again, this is something I talked about recently, actually. It's like, when it comes to nostalgia, particularly in wrestling, nostalgia, to me, somewhere always connects to wanting to recapture a feeling, right? You want to recapture what you were feeling at a time because it made you feel so good in anything, right? Like, I'm not just pro wrestling, but I think, in pro wrestling, it's particularly there, where you have this idea where, let's say in 2020, like in 2024, you're like, let's have Goldberg versus Hogan again, because man, the vibes I got, when they packed the Georgia Dome in '98, I think. Wasn't it '98? When they packed the Georgia Dome, man, that was such a great feeling. But then you do it again, and then you're like, no, Goldberg and Hogan both stink. They're terrible now. They can't wrestle. No one should see that match. No one should watch that match. No one should want that match, but you're just trying to recapture that. And the wrestlers, they're like, yeah, let's do it again. Because wrestlers are all about recapturing that magic, that moment, that thing that they felt at that specific moment. They want to relive that. This idea that Naito is somehow going to be great forever and is still currently like this great wrestler is kind of preposterous. And we're kind of reaching a point where he'd be better served just letting the body of work speak for itself, as opposed to whatever he's trying to do now. But I also understand the conundrum they're in, because Tetsuya Naito is still like one of their biggest, we're going to say one of their biggest now, because of the attendance at Wrestle Kingdom, but he's still one of their biggest drawing stars. What are they going to do with, so are you just going to tell him to stop wrestling? No. In fact, what you're going to do is you're going to put him in a tag team with Hiromu Takahashi, and you're going to throw him into the IWGP World Championship match, World Tag Team Championship match at Wrestle Dynasty against the Bucks and the United Empire, which will be Great O'Khan and Jeff Cobb. They announced that it was going to be Jeff Cobb, his partner, and we're going to make that into a three-way, and that way the Bucks won't have to win. And the titles are going to go on Hiromu and Naito, and you can keep booking Naito on cards, and Naito won't have to work all alone these extra long matches. He'll be able to share the workload with Hiromu. Because honestly, it's smart. That's what you do. But like singles guy Tetsuya Naito, we'll talk about it later on in the year, but if he's in the G1 this year, I'm going to be a little shocked. I'm going to be a little surprised. Anyway, this was my least favorite match on the show. I'm ambivalent on the rating. I need 3. Like, it wasn't like a disaster. I'm talking like it was a disaster, but it wasn't. But it's more like maybe expectation versus reality, but my expectations weren't even that high as some other people were. This was a good match 5 years ago. 2025, no fucking way. There was no way they were going to be able to pull this off. Tetsuya Naito's broken down. He's broken down, and we just have to come to admit this. Yes, he's got the vibes. Yes, it's Tetsuya Naito. Yep, so on and so forth. He's cool. Whatever attachment you have to him, I believe you are better off letting. I believe you're better off hunting down, rewatching your favorite matches from him, reliving those moments, as opposed to whatever he is now. If anything, it's going to be more detrimental. And we're gonna be here, and we're gonna be talking about Tetsuya Naito's downfall moving forward. Every time he's gonna be in a match. At least they're gonna do something smart with him, like I said, which is gonna be to put him in a tag team where he'll be able to split the workload. He won't have to do the main events. We won't be wondering if we're gonna get we won't be wondering if we're going to get main event Naito, if we're going to get big match Naito, because we didn't get big match Naito at Wrestle Kingdom. Or if that's what's left of big match Naito, don't ever expect anything more than this out of him then. I don't know what the percentage, to me, this wasn't big match Naito. Didn't feel like it. If it was, oh boy, we're in trouble. There you go. Those are my thoughts. That's my review of Wrestle Kingdom 18. Like I said, a good show, but not a great one. I would say 3 really good matches on the top tier matches. The Yota Tsuji title win, the Iwatani Azumi match, which was also tremendous. And Takeshita versus Shingo. Don't let my review make you feel like it was a bad match, because it really wasn't. It was great. Just a little beneath my expectations. Is there anything here you absolutely have to watch? I think this is a good show. Stuff that you can skip is very easily, and I think I've pointed it out. I think you should watch the show. It's a good little wrestling show. You won't be pulling your hair out. It's a good show. But if you really, really are strapped for time, I think the only match that really demands your attention is Tsuji and Finlay, if only to see how great Dave Finlay is. That I think this was truly a showcase of how great David Finlay is as a wrestler in 2025. There you go. So there you go. That should wrap everything up. And Wrestle Kingdom 19, it's in the books, baby.